Perps are up here, and it's Monday, so it's time for some randomizer content. So let's go ahead and just get started on that.
Operator? Ordis wonders, what are you thinking about?
Well, I'm wondering what the heck this float's gonna be. Okay, let's see what we got. We got Chroma, Karak Wraith, the Knell, and the Caustacyst with a Helios. Okay. So, I shouldn't be hopping out of that, but let me show off my Chroma build, right? Because Chroma is a Warframe that people love to min and max, and this is the way that I enjoy playing him. First of all, Chroma is a fantastic tank, and then he doesn't have any natural built-in sustain abilities, so I've polarized him to Rejuvenation. If you just wanted to stick with the default V polarity for something like the Steel Charge, that's totally fine. Also, I feel like Corrosive Projection is totally fine on Chroma, and so is Stand United. Stand United for the extra armor, since Chroma tends to build up a ton of armor. That's always good. Handspring and the Excellence, this particular build is not maxed. And then a ton of duration to make sure that his abilities stay on for a long time. So I've got Primed Continuity and I've got Narrow-Minded. And I think Narrow-Minded is perfectly fine on Chroma because a lot of his abilities are simple auras, and he doesn't really have very much in the way of range scaling. The only real range scalings he has are ranges in which hero allies can stand close to you to get benefit from his auras. And one way to negate the effects of negative range on Chroma is to go with Everlasting Ward, which causes his second ability, his Elemental Ward, to stay applied to allies once they've had it applied to them once, even if they move outside of the radius, which is very useful when you've reduced the radius on his Elemental Ward to only about 5 meters. So that's fantastic. Beyond that, Steel Fiber and Vitality, just for some base tank stats. Now, some people would argue that Steel Fiber is not as effective as, say, Primed Vigor at increasing Chroma's effective health. And I will say this, that when Chroma does have a fully stacked Vex armor, he's getting several thousand armor from it, and that's not multiplicative with Steel Fiber, that's just additive. So obviously having more health is more effective then. But my reasoning behind playing Steel Fiber on Chroma is that I can't always guarantee that I'm going to have the energy, or that I'm not going to be silenced out of Vex armor. And in those sorts of situations where I'm having to jump inside a Nullifier bubble, for example, I would much rather have Chroma have a little bit more base tankiness to him. Chroma with just Vitality and Vex armor is already so incredibly tanky that it's perfectly fine, I think, to be using Steel Fiber in place of more health. And to make sure that the Vex armor is giving him as much benefit as possible, we've got Transient Fortitude and Intensify to increase his ability strength by a large quantity. I feel like a lot of ability strength is always going to be justified in Chroma. That's going to be fantastic on him because it's giving him more tank stats per ability strength. Finally, Hunter Adrenaline, and the particular reason why I'm playing Hunter Adrenaline, or you could go with Rage instead. Obviously, roughly the same effect on the mod. But the reason why I'm playing that, right, is because this build is not particularly energy hungry. And what you can do with this setup is you can play Chroma without Xeneric as his focus school, actually. You can easily play him using any of the non-energy generating focus schools because he'll get more than enough energy out of a rage effect. So I usually play him with either Vazarin for the free revives, or I play him with Unairu for the Void Spines and the bonus armor off of Stone Skin. Obviously, my Void Spines isn't maxed out yet. I'm working on that. But I'm going to go ahead and just leave him on a Vazarin right now just to demonstrate that the build does indeed work without any bonus energy being added into it because of the ability slot that's been dedicated to Hunter Adrenaline. Now, there's one particular downside to this, and it's that without any power efficiency mods, you can see the efficiency is just at a flat 100%, right? And without any power efficiency mods, it costs 75 energy to cast Vex armor, which is more than Chroma's energy pool if you're in the middle of an energy reduction sortie. So in that case, I will usually swap out either the Hunter Adrenaline or the Intensify into a single copy of Streamline to get the energy cost of Vex armor below Chroma's 55 energy pool under the reduced energy circumstances. Then, of course, I've also got a build here that's designed around Guided Effigy. It's got Fleeting Expertise to keep a lot more energy efficiency going on in the in the build, and a lot of the rest of this is basically the same stuff, but it's built around keeping his ultimate on for a much longer time. And then I've got this build, which is essentially a maximized power strength build. You can see that's sitting on over 250% power strength in exchange for extremely reduced efficiency. So this build would obviously be only viable with Xeneric and with a lot of energy sources, but I almost always play Chroma with this default Everlasting Ward build because I feel like that's very useful for allies. Now, the Karak Wraith is apparently a weapon that I haven't put any Forma into. I don't think I put any Forma into either into actually any of these weapons. Look at them. But the Karak Wraith is a weapon that's not really been too heavily improved by the last batch of alterations to weapon stats and weapon things and whatnot. The big thing that's going on here is that the Karak's got fairly low critical chance, only 13%, but a reasonably high status chance. So you're just going to go with a generic build that has a large quantity of status and elemental damage at that point, and just use the weapon for that purpose. Now, the Karak is split between its IPS damage. It's got about as much impact as it does slash and puncture combined, so there's not really any potential for going with a slash viral build there, which is a bit sad. Look at this. I appear to have Serration Split Chamber, which is fine, and then 3 dual stat mods, and apparently I was running with Prime Cryo rounds. Look at that though. I'm thinking that I would probably want to swap that to a Prime Shred just to get the punch through on the weapon to make sure that this can clear groups of enemies a bit faster. Obviously, this build would need a couple Forma. If I was to slap in something like 2 Forma into this, so I could have another V for the Serration, another V for the Shred. I would also be able to put in a 4th dual stat mod, say Thermite rounds, which would convert it into being Corrosive Blast, or something like that, right? And then you could have the final slot be the Prime Cryo rounds. Alternatively, keep it on the Prime Cryo rounds and the Rhyme rounds, and go for what else could you go? Vigilante Armaments for extra multi-shot. That will also do a good job of increasing the base damage. The biggest issue with the Karak is just that it doesn't have a very high crit chance, and it doesn't have a lot of slash damage. So it's never going to be much more than just a corrosive bullet spammer. Now the Knell, on the other hand, has the potential to provide a huge amount of critical damage. Yeah, yes, thank you, Ortis. Thank you, Ortis. I really appreciate you interrupting me there. Anyways, the Knell has the potential to provide a huge amount of critical statistics because it gets a large amount of critical stats on headshot. I'll have to demonstrate it in game because on headshot, the magazine becomes unlimited and it gains, I believe, a huge amount of critical damage. We'll have to go check that for sure. But I've never particularly liked the Knell because I don't particularly like scoped pistols. The only real weapons where I like the greater than 2x zoom are sniper rifles, and that's mostly just for using them on the plains of Eidolon. Even then, though, I really prefer my Volcar Wraith with about 2.5x zoom. I don't like the Lanka's 3x if I can help it. But I like the Lanka as in general as a weapon, but the zoom setting is not too good on that. And because the Knell really wants you to be scoping in, hitting those headshots, it's never been my personal type of weapon. I feel like anything you can do with the Knell, you could also be doing with other crit pistols like the Pandero or the Aklex or the Axtilettos, things like that. So what I've got so far is Hornet Strike, dual multi-shot mods here for Barrel Diffusion, Lethal Torrent, so damage and multi-shot. And then I've got 1 dual stat mod here and Prime Pistol Game and a Tower Cracker. Nothing real special. Actually, I think for the purposes of demonstrating here, I'm just going to go with the default Pistol Gamut just so I can get a higher level into Tower Cracker. Yeah, that's fine. It's not fantastic, but it's better than probably splitting those stats. An important thing to keep in mind, right, is that your critical chance and your critical multiplier are going to feed off each other. So you get more out of having more critical chance when your critical multiplier is high, and you get more out of having a high critical multiplier when your critical chance is high. So it's usually better to go balanced in that kind of scenario. An important note for the Knell is that Hydraulic Crosshairs has fantastic synergy with this pistol, since it wants you to stack continuous headshots over and over to be able to keep the unlimited ammo killing spree going on. Hydraulic Crosshairs is fantastic because you're already going to be deliberately refreshing that crit chance buff over and over and over. I would definitely finish off this build by putting on Hydraulic Crosshairs, and then I would go for the other dual stat mod to make corrosives. That would be Jolt. That way the the mod would not the mod, the pistol would hit about 30% status chance. Not fantastic, but with the large amount of multi-shot that the pistol has, and the large amount of fire rate that you end up with once you've got the headshot multiplier going, it's still gonna be pretty good. I don't know, in terms of the pistols with the gimmicky effects, right? I would group in the Knell with the Caustacyst and with the dual Caustacyst in that respect. So the dual Caustacyst and the Caustacyst and the Knell all have bonuses. That's not the Knell, that's the Amblist. They all have bonuses on shooting enemies and on getting headshots and things like that. I honestly think that the Knell is probably the weakest of the three. I really love the Caustacyst with its heavy slash-based status chances and its high crit chance. I feel like the Caustacyst just shreds enemies, and a dual Caustacyst become an absolute monster once you put on some fire rate mods onto them, and you land a single headshot, and then you can just go to town spam clicking and getting about 20-30 shots in the space of a couple seconds, and the huge amounts of base damage and status chance. Now for the Caustacyst. The Caustacyst is a weapon that I'm not invested too much into. The primary idea behind the Caustacyst is that the charged attack behind it, and again, I'm sure this will change when Melee 3.0 comes out and the functionality of heavy attacks and stuff like that is altered. But still, the primary thing behind the Caustacyst, the primary mechanic behind it, is that charged attacks unleash a spray of acid that enemies will take damage over time when they're standing in. A lot of people have sung the praises of this weapon before, of it being essentially a high corrosive weapon that also has this fun effects going on where it can shred the armor off of enemies very fast in an area of effects. And that, I will not argue with that, but I've never been a particular fan of it. I feel like the base damage of the weapon is too low, and I don't like the gimmicky effects of it. What I will say is that I don't think that Spoiled Strike makes a lot of sense here. I will go ahead and swap that for Condition Overload. Also give Condition Overload the polarity because it's got more capacity than Prime Pressure Point. So the idea of Spoiled Strike, right, would be that you're just going to increase the base damage of the weapon by even more than just Prime Pressure Point can, and you're going to get that as much damage out on that acid spray as possible. But Condition Overload, if I understand properly, should also be increasing the damage of the acid spray as enemies get status effects attached to them. And there will also be, this is also multiplicative as opposed to Spoiled Strike, which is stacks additively with Pressure Void. Condition Overload will stack multiplicatively with all this other stuff. Now, obviously, I've got 4 dual stat mods here to get the weapon to 100% status chance, which is fantastic. Virulent Scourge will take Strike for Corrosive, and Volcanic Edge Vicious Frost for Blast. And in the case of this weapon, I feel like Blast damage is a fantastic idea, because you want enemies to be receiving blast procs to be knocked down and stay in that zone of slime. Additionally, we've got Prime Fury for more attack speed, and of course Life Strike because Lifesteal is always fantastic. And the stance here is Stalking Fan. It's got some combos, but it's honestly just there for the looks. And when it comes to side stances, I honestly do like Reaping Spiral. So there's that. Again, I don't think that blast damage is ideal on a weapon like the Karak, because the Karak is a highly accurate automatic weapon that's going to be spamming shots downrange at enemies, and when you land that blast proc and it knocks down enemies, it's going to knock them out of your current line of fire. You have to suddenly aim downwards, and then may knock enemies completely out of your line of fire, period, if they land behind some kind of cover when the blast proc hits them. So I feel like blast procs on fully automatic range weapons are not ideal. I'd much rather go with cold, or just fire, in addition to corrosive when possible. Anyways, we've got all those, and I've got my Helios here, so I might as well show him off. I've been using Helios a lot today because of the Acolytes coming back. I want to make sure I had all the scans on them. Sacrifice, because Sacrifice is fantastic. Prime Region, so he can res me more times off the Sacrifice. Sanctuary to help me res. Animal Instinct, because I feel like Animal Instinct should be on every companion ever. And for tank mods, I've just got Enhanced Vitality here, apparently. No other tank mods. Helios does not have very fantastic tank stats. He's only got, I believe, something like 200, 300 health. And he's got only 100 armor. It's not really worth leveling up the armor, and only 100 shields. You could give him more shields if you wanted to. In this case, I'm going with Guardian instead, because I will need to put in another polarity to get a shield mod, it looks like. Mid-arrays to stack with the Guardian so I can get shields and health. Vacuum, of course, because Vacuum is just an auto use on Sentinels, and then the Helios Precepts using Detect Vulnerability and Investigator. Helios's Deconstructor weapon actually is a pretty fantastic weapon. Yeah, it's even got that equipped right now. This deals a ton of damage, so if you want to use Helios as an attacking sentinel, I feel like it's one of the best sentinels to do that with, but it's not my personal playstyle. So, with all of that said, and probably about 10 minutes wasted talking into the microphone, I'm just going to go and run into this mission, whatever this is. Mobile defense, electricity damage. Sure, let's do that. Mobile defense is going to be a bit difficult because Chroma doesn't have much inbuilt crowd control other than his ult, which this build is not focused around that I'm running on him. I'm just using the default tank build that I normally run. But one nice thing about it is that Chroma's got a large hitbox, and I also can definitely just use him as a tank Warframe that can draw fire and hopefully just steal the aggro away from that stuff. Oh! I probably should have turned on any of my abilities before I ran into that purple stick. Like any of them. Here I am going on and on about how Chroma is a tank, and I'm not even using any of his tank skills. Also, here again is why I think that... Oh, wow. There is a head hitbox on those. Fire, no, Moas. That's great. There is a head hitbox on the Moas. I will say this for the Knell. The Knell is a lot better ever since they gave you the ability to refresh the buff. At least I think you can refresh the buff while it's active nowadays. I barely use this weapon. I use Chroma a lot, but I barely use any of these 3 weapons that I have a role in this game. I really dislike the Knell, but it does deal a lot of damage. Let's see if my Karak came in. That's not bad. For being a non-crit weapon, that's not doing too bad at dealing with these Corpus. But I've got to make sure I don't let any of these abilities go away. I guess an important thing to talk about, right, is the fact that I'm playing my Chroma as an ice buff. Now, what the ice buff does is it reflects a certain percentage of incoming projectiles, which is fantastic against the Corpus, and also gives him a higher percentage of armor buff. Now, and that stacks multiplicatively with the other armor buffs. Oh boy, they're murdering systems. Don't shoot me, don't shoot the system, shoot me.
Still continue to defend.
Ah! I'm gonna get this charge shot going up so I can demonstrate it. Yeah, there we go, now it's got some slime down. I was mostly just wanting to get the light strike there though. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to hold this. We'll see, we'll see. I'm trying to draw the aggro, but some of this stuff is just area effect, and it's not doing a very good job of... hitting just me and not the systems as well. You see, though, like even without Synerg, I'm not having any energy points there. Ah!
Keep moving.
Yeah, these are very weak weapons I rolled. These are very weak weapons, and I put very little into them in the way of Forma. There's the sacrifice coming in handy, though. I really don't like the Knell. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Digital Extremes. You made a fun weapon. I get it. The Knell's fun, and the Knell's cute because of the fact that what's this bucket? Who did this come out with? Harrow? Because of the fact that Harrow is all about getting headshots and things, but it's really just not. It's really just not good because it's too variable in terms of its effectiveness. You know, sometimes you land a headshot and it becomes a fantastic weapon for a few seconds, and sometimes you're just looking at a nullifier bubble, or you're looking at some sort of infested unit that barely has a hitbox to it at all. It just becomes impossible to get hardly any value out of the weapon. I gotta get rid of that sapping hot spray. The sapping bubbles are one of the things I'm most scared of here. Destroying the what's this bucket? The terminal. Also, all this hurts. Here again, the rejuvenation is helping somewhat. It's certainly doing more for me than I think that the benefits would be from any other ore at this point. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to complete this. We'll see. And that's the rules, though. I got to try the sortie with this loadout that I roll. Sure. Set up like that.
I'm in, Tenno.
Where is that? There it is. Just trying to figure out where the hell those suckers are. Ah! Why can't I use my Caustacyst? That's weird. I got knocked down and it disarmed me. Digital Extremes, please. Trying to just life strike through some of this damage. Always a good idea to bring a good life strike weapon with Chroma, actually. One of my favorite weapons to bring on him is the... yeah, gotta get rid of that thing. Let's dive this bubble. And here again, that's why I think that steel fiber is a must-have on Chroma, is because you do occasionally lose out on the ability to have Vex armor up. And when you gotta dive into the level 5 bubbles and things like that, it gives you so much more versatility, I guess would be the word. No, don't. Stupid Sapping Osprey is just murdering the systems. As is the... oh my god. With the Corpus Tech, okay. As is that Versa. Oh god, Chroma is so tanky, but I don't have the ability to hold this because this is... this is a bad Warframe to choose for this mission. Yeah, okay. I'm going to accept defeat at this point. Systems are down. Well, there you have it. I feel like Chroma is a fantastic Warframe, and his ability to face tank through huge amounts of damage and increase the effectiveness of your weapons is just utterly insane. That said, I rolled some of my least favorite weapons that I own right now. If I was to go and redo that mission, one of the most important things I would try to do, if I was to be selecting my own weapons to benefit Chroma in that kind of scenario, one of the most important things I would do is I would grab weapons that have some built-in crowd control on them. For a great example would be the Simular, right, where you can have it set up with blast damage, and then the damage over time can proc blast and knock people down. Another great example of a weapon like that would be the Tryhard, for a very similar reason, where you can stack blast damage and have it give damage over time effects in an area of effects. The Pox have a very similar damage profile for that kind of reason. Another good way to get crowd control out of the weapon is to give radiation procs so enemies start fighting each other. The static cores are a great weapon for that kind of thing. And of course, again, I feel like the Caustacyst, while the corrosive area effect is fantastic at shredding armor off of high-level enemies, it's not very good against those Corpus I was fighting. And the weapon at its base is not dealing very much damage. It was able to get me some health back by a life strike in that mission, but again, if I was to try to go for a weapon that would be able to keep me alive a lot longer, I would either want a weapon that just can cleave through enemies faster, something like the Legion, for example, or I would just want a weapon that is set up with a Maiming Strike build, right? Because Maiming Strike and Life Strike synergize very well, where you can fire off the single spin attack and channel the hit so you go back to full health and then put the melee weapon back away again. So that's more of the sort of loadout I would probably bring. Anyways, well, thank you guys. I am going to have to accept defeat on that particular mission. The bonus electrical damage Corpus is not something that Chroma can defend an objective against. Chroma's great at... if it was just an exterminate mission, Chroma would have been fine, but in terms of objective defense, he cannot do it. So, thank you guys, and have a great day. Herp to derp out.